Hi, you're watching Reddit Confessions. She didn't notice me when she walked past. Hair curled just right. That navy pantsuit I used to call her armor. And the way she kept glancing at her reflection in the glass, like she wasn't checking for flaws, but reminding herself she was untouchable. She wasn't supposed to see me there. That's the only reason I went. Just to watch. I had no grand plan. No confrontation in mind. I didn't even have the words anymore. Only a velvet pouch in my jacket pocket, and a silence that had been growing louder for months. I followed her into the Luxora Tower. Not close enough to be noticed, just enough to stay in her shadow. She breezed through security like she owned the marble beneath her heels. I showed my outdated visitor's badge, said I was just dropping off documents. No one questioned me. No one ever does when you look like you belong. She entered the 42nd floor VIP lounge with a man I'd never seen before. Not just a colleague. Not just a friend. He placed his hand on the small of her back as they walked in. Territorial, familiar. She didn't flinch. That was the second time that morning my stomach turned. The first was at home, when I found the hotel keycard in her sock drawer. It was tucked into an old greeting card I'd written for her years ago and never gave. Back then, I thought it sounded too needy, too emotional. Now I wish I had sent it. Maybe it would have reminded her of a version of me that didn't sound like static when I spoke. But she hadn't thrown the card away. She just used it to hide something else. That hotel. That room number. That lie. Back to the lounge. She ordered a matcha tea. I only know that because it used to be our thing. Our little ritual before big days. I'd bring her one with almond milk and a dumb note that said, "Go get him, Dragon Slayer." Now she orders her own. And slays alone. She set her designer bag on the velvet chair while she leaned in to laugh at something her coworker said. I took a breath. This was it. I walked past like I belonged there. My fingers brushed the zipper of her bag. Smooth. Silent. Familiar. Like I'd done it 1,000 times. I slipped in the velvet pouch. Inside was my wedding ring. The missing one she said she accidentally left in a rental car. And a single photo of the hotel keycard she thought I'd never see. On the back, I wrote, "You left before I did." And that was it. No shouting. No goodbye text. No messy drama. Just the truth. Sitting quietly in her bag. Waiting to be unzipped in front of catered breakfast, crystal water glasses, and million-dollar contracts. She didn't notice me leave. But I noticed the slight shake in her hand when she reached for her purse. I never turned back. As I stood outside the Luxora Tower, watching taxis crawl by like ants avoiding puddles, I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel clever. I felt light. Not in a good way. In that eerie, floating sense you get right before a panic attack, when your chest is hollow and your thoughts move like smoke. She was still upstairs, probably checking the time, adjusting her blazer, rehearsing her pitch. And in her bag sat everything I couldn't say out loud. My ring. The photo. The message I spent half the night rewriting, even though it was only 5 words. It was the most me thing I could have done. Agonize over a sentence she'd read in 5 seconds, and probably forget 10 minutes later. But I had to leave something. I couldn't let her rewrite the ending. Not this time. The taxi driver asked where I was headed. I didn't answer right away. Instead, I stared up at the glass building, watching my own reflection disappear as I got further from the entrance. I knew the moment she'd unzip that bag. I knew the expression she'd make. Confused, then scared, then trying to keep her composure. I knew it because I'd worn that expression for months. Darla had a gift for pretending. She could smile through anything. She once took a work call during her grandmother's funeral. Another time she got promoted the same day I lost my job, and instead of comforting me, she offered to coach me on confidence. Her words, not mine. I hadn't planned to visit the Calwin Hotel, but the address on the keycard was burned into my brain. Room 1124. It sounded more like a code than a place. And now that everything was set in motion, curiosity started clawing at me. So I told the driver to take me there. The Calwin wasn't some shady motel. It was sleek, towering, and way too expensive for someone like me. But apparently not for the man Darla had chosen. I asked the front desk if someone had left a pair of glasses in room 1124. A lame excuse, but enough to get a reaction. The receptionist gave me a polite, rehearsed smile. The current guest checked out early this morning. I blinked. Early? Yes. Around 5. I nodded like it made sense. But it didn't. Darla hadn't left the house until 7. She'd showered. She was fresh. Put together. There hadn't been time for a detour. Unless she'd never come home last night. I walked out of the lobby into a storm that didn't exist. Everything I thought I'd understood about this betrayal suddenly tilted sideways. I had assumed I was playing chess with a cold-hearted queen, but now I wondered if I'd ever been on the board at all. And still, I hoped. I hoped she'd find the pouch, panic, rush home, call me in tears. I hoped for something pathetic and stupid and human. I wanted to hear her voice crack. I wanted to believe she still had the capacity to fall apart over me. But I didn't get a call. What I got was a text. Just 2 words. You knew? When my phone lit up with her text, you knew? I didn't respond. I didn't even blink. I just stared at those 2 words as if they had the power to reach out and choke me. There was no apology, no explanation, just that cold, accusatory tone that somehow made me the problem for figuring it out. I sat in the hotel's cafe, stirring a cup of coffee I didn't remember ordering, letting the silence scream inside my head. All I kept thinking was, why didn't she deny it? Why wasn't there even a trace of shame? I kept replaying our last conversation in my mind. Not the one this morning, the one last night. I had asked if she wanted to watch something together, even though I knew she'd say no. I even offered that dumb documentary about killer whales she pretended to like. She said she was tired, that she had to be sharp in the morning, and then kissed me on the cheek before disappearing into her office for last-minute prep. But apparently, prep was code for pre-check-in. I took a screenshot of her message, not because I wanted to keep it, but because part of me didn't believe it was real. Like if I turned my phone off, the whole thing would reset, and I'd be back at home, still annoying her with my clinginess and late-night snacks. My thumb hovered over the keyboard, aching to type something. Anything. Maybe I wanted to hurt her back. Maybe I wanted closure. But I knew no message I sent would fix what was broken. Besides, she'd already moved past the damage. She wasn't checking for cracks in the glass. She was stepping over the pieces. Still, curiosity itched at me. Who was he? Not just his name, but what kind of man was he? Did he laugh at her jokes? Did he know how she hated cilantro but pretended to like it in meetings? Did he know she sleep-talked when she was stressed? Or did he only know the polished, powerful version, the one I barely recognized anymore? I opened her Instagram. Stupid, I know, but I needed to see if he was there. I scrolled past stage photos from conferences, overpriced brunches, and forced couple shots she insisted we take back when we were still pretending. Then I saw it. A new story, posted an hour ago. Just a boomerang of 2 champagne glasses clinking over a rooftop skyline. Her caption, big wins only. And a gold heart. I stared at it like it had teeth. She wasn't in panic mode. She wasn't spiraling. She wasn't even hiding. She was celebrating. That's when the full weight of it hit me. Not just that she had cheated, but that she had replaced me so seamlessly that my absence didn't even leave a dent. It was like I had never mattered at all. I felt something hot rise in my throat. Not anger. Not quite sadness. Something worse. Emptiness with sharp edges. I paid for the untouched coffee and walked out into the street. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't care. I just needed movement. My body felt like it would collapse if I stayed still for too long. And then, like the universe wasn't done kicking me, I got another message. This one was longer. I'm not proud of how this went. But we were broken long before this. You know that. Please don't embarrass us both by making it messy. Embarrass us? She was worried about optics? I almost laughed right there on the sidewalk. But it caught in my throat. Because I realized something I hadn't wanted to admit until now. She was never coming back. Not to me. Not to who we used to be. And I was done being the only one hurting. I didn't go home that night. I could have. The key was in my pocket, my name still on the lease, my toothbrush still damp from that morning. But walking into that apartment now felt like stepping into a room someone had already died in. I couldn't stand the idea of sitting on the couch she used to curl up on, or opening the fridge and seeing the almond milk only she drank, or worse, seeing nothing at all and realizing just how much of her had already disappeared. So instead, I checked into a cheap hotel across town. Not the poetic kind where the heartbroken hero rebuilds his life. No, this one smelled like bleach and boiled broccoli, and the remote didn't have batteries. But it had a lock and silence, and most importantly, it had no memories. I stared at the ceiling most of the night, obsessing over her last message. Please don't embarrass us both by making it messy. Like my pain was a potential PR disaster. Like her betrayal was a small scheduling conflict She hoped I'd quietly get over. I should have blocked her, deleted everything. But I didn't. I wanted to see what she'd do next. And she didn't disappoint. The next morning, I woke up to an email. A forwarded calendar invite. Subject line: brunch, Sunday, just talk? She scheduled me. Like a meeting. Not a call. Not a knock at the door. An appointment. With time, location, and a note. We can discuss this privately. Please, no drama. I stared at the screen for a long time. Jaw clenched so tight, I thought my teeth would crack. I could have ignored it. I could have replied with rage or sarcasm. But the part of me that still hadn't accepted reality, the part still begging for her to act human, clicked accept. I arrived 10 minutes early. She showed up 8 minutes late. And she didn't come alone. I saw him first. Tall, smug, not trying to hide. He sat at the table behind her, alone, facing away. But I knew exactly what that was. A safety net. A witness. Or maybe just a trophy she didn't want to leave in the car. She sat down across from me like nothing was wrong, ordered her sparkling water with a twist of lemon, and smiled that fake, polished smile I used to mistake for affection. I wasn't sure if you'd come, she said. I didn't answer. I couldn't. I was still processing the fact that she was wearing the necklace I gave her on our 3rd anniversary. The one she swore she'd never take off. Now it was just another prop in her performance. I think we both knew this was inevitable, she continued, stirring her drink slowly. We haven't been aligned in a long time. I bit the inside of my cheek until it hurt. She was using corporate language to end our marriage. She leaned in. I don't want this to get ugly, Nathan. I respect you. I really do. But let's be adults. We both have lives to move forward with. We? She had someone waiting at the next table. I had a suitcase in a 3-star hotel and a throat full of things I'd never get to say. Still, I nodded. Not because I agreed, but because I couldn't trust myself to speak without breaking. She slid an envelope across the table. I've already spoken with a lawyer. It's simple. Clean. I'm not asking for anything. The irony nearly choked me. She wasn't asking for anything because she'd already taken everything. And then, as if reading my mind, she added, he wasn't the reason this ended. He was just the reminder. That was the first time I truly hated her. Not because she lied. Not because she cheated. But because she made it sound like she did me a favor. And just like that, the brunch ended. No tears. No scene. She stood, adjusted her coat, and gave me a soft pat on the shoulder like I was some retired employee getting a send-off. She walked out of the restaurant without looking back, and he followed her. But as I watched them disappear into the afternoon sun, I realized something chilling. He wasn't looking at her. He was looking at me, and he was smiling. I wish I could forget the way he smiled at me. It wasn't gloating. It wasn't even smug in the traditional sense. It was worse. It was a knowing smile, like he'd already won something I didn't realize I was even competing for. Like he was watching a scene he'd already rehearsed in his head 100 times. And the worst part? I didn't do anything. I just sat there, frozen, while the two of them walked away like they were stepping into their new life, clean and unbothered. That night, I couldn't sleep again. The hotel room felt even smaller than before. The air was stale. My clothes still smelled like her perfume from the brunch, and that made everything worse. I kept replaying everything in my mind. Her voice, her rehearsed words, the envelope on the table. I hadn't even opened it yet. I didn't want to give it that kind of power. I wasn't ready to read in legal terms what she had already made clear with her actions. But something else bothered me. That man. The way he looked at me. There was something familiar about it. Not his face, exactly, but the way he moved. The way he didn't rush, didn't hide, didn't fidget. I couldn't shake the feeling that he wasn't some accidental affair. That this wasn't some organic connection she just stumbled into. So, against every rational instinct I had left, I went looking for answers. I still had her old iPad. She'd forgotten to sign out of it after syncing her calendar once. I never touched it, but now I had nothing to lose. I charged it up, hands shaking, and opened the messaging app. The screen lit up with conversations. Some work, some personal, all shallow and perfectly curated. Until I found a thread marked with a fake name, Lila, HR. The first message was a year old. You sure he's that clueless? Clueless doesn't even begin to cover it. I could tell him I'm working late with Santa Claus, and he'd ask if I wanted cookies packed. I kept scrolling. More texts. More jokes. Photos. Dinner selfies. Hotel receipts. Room numbers. She'd used me as the punchline in a love story I didn't know I was written out of. But the worst part? It had been going on for over 13 months. That meant last Christmas, our anniversary, my dad's funeral. Every moment I thought she was beside me, she was already gone. And then I saw it. A message from just 2 nights ago, right before her big meeting. You don't think he'll freak out, right? Let him. It's time. He needs to see how small he is. I dropped the iPad. All that restraint, all the dignity I thought I had by slipping that velvet pouch into her bag, it meant nothing. She wanted me to find it. She wanted me to unravel. That wasn't a goodbye. It was a staged humiliation. That envelope she gave me wasn't a peace offering. It was a trap. I finally opened it. Inside were two things, a drafted separation agreement and a handwritten note. For what it's worth, I hope you find someone who doesn't need to be reminded you exist. My hands trembled. She didn't just leave me. She erased me. She carved me out of her story and handed the pen to someone else. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized maybe that smile wasn't meant to mock me. Maybe it was a warning. I didn't go back to the hotel that night. I wandered through streets I didn't recognize, under lights that felt too harsh, too clean for the mess inside my head. My phone buzzed 3 times. I didn't look. What else was there to say? She had made her position clear. My pain was an inconvenience. Her affair was an upgrade, and my role in her life was now a postscript. But the weight of that final message, he needs to see how small he is, kept echoing through me like a scream trapped in a glass jar. She didn't just betray me. She planned the moment I'd find out. Scripted it. Dressed it in cruelty. Delivered it like a performance she wanted an audience for. I was never her husband. I was just a character to humiliate in the final act. By the time I finally stopped walking, I was standing in front of a bookstore. Closed, obviously. Midnight had swallowed the city whole. But in the reflection of the darkened window, I saw something that made my stomach turn. A man standing across the street, hands in his coat pockets, staring directly at me. Not the casual glance of a passerby. No phone. No cigarette. Just stillness. Watching. And I knew. It was him. Same height. Same stance. Same haircut from the brunch. I could feel my pulse slam against my neck. I didn't move. Neither did he. Then, slowly he nodded. Just once. Not a greeting. Not a threat. Something in between. Then he turned and walked into the alley. I should have let him go. I should have walked away, booked a train, fled the city, done anything but follow. But pain does strange things to your instincts. So I crossed the street and stepped into the darkness behind him. The alley was empty. Just dumpsters and dripping fire escapes. No footsteps. No doors opening or closing. He was gone. But there, tucked into a crack in the brick wall, was a folded napkin. A hotel logo printed faintly in the corner, the Cowan. I unfolded it. For words, written in blocky penmanship. Check room 314. Tonight. I stood frozen. My first thought was that she sent him. That this was part of some sick game. But deep down, another part of me whispered something else. What if he wants me to see something she didn't plan for? I hailed a cab, told myself I was crazy, and still gave the driver the address. The Cowan felt different at night. Less polished. Colder. I didn't go to the front desk this time. I took the back stairs, my palms damp, every creak beneath my shoes echoing like gunshots. Room 314 was on the 3rd floor. No lights beneath the door. No sounds inside. I knocked. Nothing. I knocked again. Then the door clicked. It swung open an inch, unlocked. No voice invited me in. No shadow moved. Just silence. Against every ounce of reason, I stepped inside. The room was dark, but I could see the faint blue glow of a laptop screen on the desk. And sitting beside it, a leather folder. Her initials embossed in gold. The same folder she took to every major meeting. The one she wouldn't even let me touch. Inside were documents. Personal ones. Contracts. Password lists. Printed emails. Photos. Of them. Together in restaurants, elevators, lobbies. Time-stamped. Dated. Some from months ago. Others from before we were even broken. Then I saw it. An airline ticket. One way. Her name. His surname. Booked weeks ago. She was never going to talk. Never going to explain. She was leaving. For good. And the man I thought was my enemy might be the only one who wanted me to know the truth. I didn't know how long I stood in that hotel room. Could have been 10 minutes or 2 hours. Time gets weird when your reality is unraveling in front of you, page by page. The air smelled like her perfume. Clean, expensive, a scent I used to find comforting. Now it clung to my skin like something sour, something artificial. The folder lay open on the desk like a coffin, and the contents inside were the final remains of whatever I thought we were. There were more documents, not just emails or ticket confirmations, but handwritten notes. Schedules. Her goals. Q3, finalize exit. Q4, full transition. I was a line item. A checkbox in a life she had already built without me. I kept flipping, my hands shaking harder the deeper I went. Every file confirmed something I was too afraid to admit. She had been orchestrating her exit for a long, long time. And she never planned to tell me. She only planned to disappear. But there was something else. Tucked into the very back of the folder, behind all the sleek printed materials, was a small envelope. No label, just sealed. I opened it with trembling fingers. Inside, a flash drive. No markings. No clue what was on it. But it was placed too carefully to be random. This wasn't just data. This was deliberate. My eyes darted back to the glowing laptop screen. It was on. No password. No files open. Just the desktop. I slid the drive into the port, half expecting it to explode. But it didn't. Instead, a single folder popped up. For him. No name. No timestamp. Just 2 files inside. One was a video. I hesitated before clicking. I already felt like I was bleeding internally. Did I really need to press the knife and further? But I did. The video opened to a dimly lit hotel room. Not this one. A different suite, but unmistakably familiar. Darla sat on the edge of the bed, wrapped in a robe, hair wet, looking anxious. She wasn't alone. The camera was handheld, slightly shaky, clearly filmed without her knowing, or at least not with her full attention. And then, the man's voice. The same voice I'd heard at brunch. Calm. Even. Too calm. I told you he'd find out. She looked up, startled. Are you recording? He didn't answer. She reached for the blanket. You can't show him this. He stayed quiet. I mean it, Cam. If you send this to Nathan, it's over. Then she laughed. A soft, bitter sound. Not that there's anything left, anyway. He finally spoke. Why not tell him the truth? Darla looked away. Because he's not built for it. Nathan doesn't handle truth. He absorbs it, lets it rot him from the inside. He'd carry the guilt like it was his fault. That sentence hit harder than anything else. Because she was right. I would have blamed myself. I already had. The video ended. I sat back, breath shallow, nausea clawing at my chest. Cam had recorded her. Not for blackmail. Not for leverage. But to show me something I never would have believed otherwise. She didn't cheat because she was swept away or impulsive. She did it because she knew I'd never fight back. She counted on me to just fade. The second file on the drive was a PDF. It was a message. From him. Just 2 lines. You deserve to know. She told me lies too. I'm out. That was it. No apology. No signature. Just a quiet exit from a man who had apparently betrayed both of us. I took the flash drive and folder and walked out of the hotel room. My heart didn't race. My legs didn't shake. For the first time in months, I felt still. She hadn't just ended the marriage. She had burned it in advance, buried the ashes, and planted something else over it. But now I had the seeds of my own ending. And this time, I would choose how the story closed. I didn't confront her. I didn't send the video, or the drive, or the folder. I didn't storm into her office or make some cinematic declaration in front of her colleagues. No, I left the folder on our kitchen table, right next to a cold cup of coffee she never finished the morning she walked out. I didn't leave a note. I didn't need to. She knew what it meant. She knew I saw her fully, without the filter, without the rehearsed monologues, without the fake tears. And I think that scared her more than anything. Instead, I packed a single bag, booked a last-minute one-way ticket, and left the city. Not to escape. To begin. It wasn't dramatic. Healing never is. I got a small rental near a lake upstate. I turned off my phone for a week. I slept without headphones for the first time in years. And one morning, I woke up and realized I hadn't thought about her in almost 12 hours. That was the beginning of my freedom. Strangers smiled at me in diners. A local bookstore owner asked if I wanted a job helping restock shelves. I said yes, not because I needed the money, but because for the first time in a long time, I wanted to be somewhere. I started writing again. Not about her. Not about betrayal. About stories. About people who lose everything and still choose to stand. About quiet strength and slow healing, and the kind of love that doesn't come wrapped in ego. I kept the ring, not out of pain, but as a reminder. I don't wear it. I don't stare at it. I just keep it in a drawer where I put things I learned from. And as for her, she emailed once. I didn't expect silence. I never replied. She doesn't get to narrate this chapter. That's mine. I don't hate her. I don't miss her. I'm not waiting for karma or closure. The truth is, I'm too busy living a life that no longer revolves around someone else's shadow. I was the man she underestimated. I'm also the man she'll never get to know now that I'm finally whole. If you made it this far, thank you for listening to my story. You're on Reddit Confessions, where the quietest voices sometimes carry the deepest truths. Tell us in the comments, what moment in history do you wish you could have witnessed with your own eyes? A real one, big or small, that still stirs something inside you. Sometimes, the most powerful stories are the ones we choose to live after the pain ends.